Welcome to Mechs on Deck, episode 27. We're getting up there now. It's been a while.
Dude, we're getting there. It's about to be the dirty 30.
Dude, dirty 30. It's the episode of our age.
We're officially, this is, I guess now, 20, I guess last year would be the first half, or the first episode of the second half of the year.
What?
I think. Yeah, because 26 is half of 52. If it's a weekly episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought you mean for like the Mechs on Deck year of starting.
Yeah, just for that. Yeah, well, yeah, for Mechs on Deck year. But we've also had like reviews come out. So I guess this isn't how many weeks. But anyway, 26, 27, whatever. Thank you guys.
I'm Osiris. This is Chewy. We are Mechs on Deck. Talk about keyboards. Today we're talking about plate materials. But before we get into that, couple things. I will be streaming a build tonight at 8 p.m. on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/mechsondeck. I'm building this guy. Let me try to angle it so you can see the name. It's a Sirius, the Palm Beast. I was saying in our Discord today that I missed out. I should have gotten some Palm keycaps because I'm using some Nolives that are also made out of Palm, which I lubed yesterday. And it would have been palm on palm on palm. But maybe later. Who knows?
It's all good. It was just like a huge missed opportunity. No big deal.
little palmception. But before we get into it, Chew, you want to give a little shout out to the sponsors of the show?
Yeah, dude. Quick shout outs. Switch Mod. Whoop, almost dropped that. This is 3204. Great for novel creams. I know you use 205, but still, that's what I used on mine. But yeah, you can get tubs of lube and smaller amounts of lube, little keisters, springs. It's got GMK sets running now. So go check out switchmod.net/mechsondeck for 4% off. You cannot get in on group buys with that 4% off. But if you're buying a keycap set and you want to get a nice board going in your head, grab some lube. 205 Grade Zero has been amazing for both switches and stems. So, not stems, stabs. And stems too, I guess, whatever.
Stems, yeah.
But yeah, switchmod.net/mechs-on-deck. Second up, we got Zap. I'll show off the half cable that I do all the time. You can grab yourself some cool cables expertly made by Zap. Join his Discord, and he posts the schedule of when he does cable runs. If not, you can buy a DIY kit and build one yourself. We have a video where we struggle to make a working cable, but we got there.
We did.
And so yeah, make sure to go check that out and check out Zap Cables. And last but not least, last couple days, GMK Dracula. They just added more caps because they're like, we hit 1,500 base kits. Insane. So be sure to grab that last couple days. Be a part of one of the most successful group buys of all time in GMK keycap regards, but probably any. I can't imagine. But yeah, GMK Dracula. And then right around the corner, GMK Terra. So big shout out to Dixie. So you can go to mechsondeck.dixiemech. That helps out the stream. That helps out the channel. Gets us to go places. So segue. We're going to be at NorCal.
We will.
And
next weekend.
Not this upcoming weekend, but the following. So if you're going to be in the NorCal meetup or in the NorCal area during that time, hit us up.
Yeah, we want to hang out. We want to meet as many people as possible. We're down to have a good time. We're going to be hanging out. We're bringing some boards.
We're bringing the Yi and the Ha.
Yeah, we're going to bring some. We're going to be a couple Texas boys coming over to California.
You know it. So anyway, today is a fun day. I got to talk to a couple different people about plate materials. So this has kind of been a growing thing the last year where different materials are being used, different materials are being experimented with, which has been fun to try out, as well as just the tried and true metals. So we're going to be going through just kind of giving our thoughts on them, giving some basic facts. There is no plate that is better than another one. but there are some that are better at certain things than others. And so we just want to get that information out, let you decide. Best thing you can do, go to a meetup, try out the boards, ask the people what kind of plate it is. Uh, and even with like a hot swap board, if you had like a tofu or something like a tray mount board, you could try even a few different plates because they're not, some of them are not too expensive. So
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, we're gonna go into probably what I would say is Chewy's favorite, and that's brass. Brass is probably the most common. I mean, it's the most
I'd
common
say
in
it's
like
tied
group
for the most
wise.
common.
Yeah, it's
I'd
definitely
say
up
it's
there. It's gonna be one of the harder plates. It's gonna be very stiff. It's not it's not got a lot of flex to it. I guess if you were doing some like thinner, I guess you could have a little bit of flex. Also, depending on the mounting style, will determine how um, stiff it actually is. But it is a very rigid material, harder than aluminum, and it's in with just about every like premium board is going to either come with a brass plate or have the option of a brass plate.
Mhm. Yeah, and so I'm putting this in order. These first two, we're gonna go from order of kind of most common to least common. Um, these top two, I honestly are probably interchangeable with how common they are. But there is a because it's more expensive. Because this is going to be one of the more until we get to the bottom of the list of the weird materials, or not weird but uncommon. It's going to be the most expensive because brass is just more expensive. And so because it's more expensive, people immediately think, oh, it's more premium. It's not the case. It's softer than some others, something like steel, but it's going to be a little bit more rigid than aluminum. Another thing that people like is that it's got a nice color to it, so it's not just gray or silver. It's just brass is not gray or silver. But that doesn't mean it's premium. It just people that's kind of what we've been accustomed to in the community is these kind of first three, and brass being the more premium of all of them makes it just kind of shine a little bit. Literally, you
It
can. I
literally
mean,
shines.
like a little shines more. So that doesn't. But like I said, that doesn't make it any better. There are certain plates on this list that I still really, really like, but this is going to be probably my favorite. So,
Yeah, absolutely. The next up, probably the second most popular, and what you would see, especially on like the like beginner, like lower level stuff, like a lot of the readily available stuff, and that's aluminum. Um, it's softer. It has some decent flex. So if you've got a board like a Fiel, and you want to have a little bit more flex in it, you can grab an aluminum plate. And one thing that's cool about aluminum is you can get it to match the case.
mhm.
So you can have it be anodized in red if your board's red, or purple if your board's purple, and you can have that cohesive um, feel to it. Another thing
Mhm.
about aluminum is with it not being very expensive, you see things like super thick aluminum plates. Like for instance, the M60A. I know that's an integrated plate, but it's still a thicker plate to keep some rigidity in there.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's what I was gonna mention is, oh, you do see a lot of integrated plate because it's cheap. It's you can get a hunk of aluminum for not, I mean, still pretty pricey, but not ridiculous. You're not spending an extra $300 for a big chunk of brass. So you look, I mean, look alone at the Koyu by Rama. They offered it where you could get an all brass for 1,000 or an all aluminum for about $450. So I mean that alone should show you, and that's integrated plate. So it should show you like, yeah, aluminum is going to be cheaper. And an integrated plate is not going to have the same properties as a normal aluminum plate. It's going to be a lot more stiff, basically the opposite of what aluminum is. So, but you get an integrated plate for something entirely different than, we're kind of talking about your standard 60%, 65% starting to pop up more and more. And then aluminum is usually the base price for a lot of custom boards. They kind of go aluminum and then you can upgrade to brass. So,
Yeah, like Fox Lab is real popular in that, and they offer like a base price for aluminum, and then for like $50 you can upgrade to brass options.
Mhm.
Um, so it's probably, I think it's one of the most versatile on the list because it can be thinner and have flex to it, or it can be super thick and have almost no flex and be as stiff as something like brass.
Mhm.
So aluminum is definitely a cool option.
Yeah, I've got your black aluminum plate in my closet
Mhm.
right now. Took it out of the bumper, had to send it back, but shout out to Zap. Um, next up is probably my second favorite is steel. So steel is going to be one of the stiffest. It's going to be a little pingy. So that is kind of one drawback is it can be a little noisy. It does not dissipate sound very well. But it's very stiff and it's cheap. It's going to be around the same price. Most steel plates versus aluminum plates are about the same price. So when you're looking at, they're not as widely common as aluminum. You don't get to see a lot of them that much. I kind of wish it was, but steel is also a lot harder to cut, so that's kind of one reason. But um, if you are typing on aluminum and you're like, I kind of think that I don't like as much flex, but I don't want to spend as much money. Steel's probably the best way to go.
Yeah. And within steel, there is like kind of the outlier of like stainless steel, where that's much more expensive just because of the actual cost of stainless steel, and the manufacturing is so much higher than just like the regular like steel plate you can get from uh like KBD fans or something. So if
Mm-hmm.
you have like a polished stainless steel plate, or like what is it, the Key Colt has the polished stainless steel bottom, um,
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of an outlier in there where it is significantly more expensive than just like the standard steel plates. But steel is definitely kind of like, in this time, I feel like everything is leaning more towards like flexible and plastics. Steel's kind of been the forgotten one, I
Yep.
feel. So
When everyone's going one way, steel's definitely the opposite. That's actually when designing the Baka 60. That's something that I had really considered, was going stainless steel weight, stainless steel plate. I wound up going brass because I was like, "Well, go with what you know. You haven't tried stainless steel sandwich mount." But um, I mean, teach their own. Once again, I would like to see more steel stuff coming out. So,
mhm.
but next up, the flexiest of boys.
the,
Uh,
the,
when I was writing this episode earlier, I just was like kind of going through each and just writing a few things about each one. This one I just wrote Flexi Boy because it's flexy.
mhm.
So polycarbonate, thin plastic. You literally you can't. One kind of downside. I got to give a shout out to Switch Couture. He sent me like a dissertation about plates. I was talking to him about plates and stuff. He was like, "All right, I'm about to learn you something." But big shout out to Switch Couture. Um, so you can't laser cut polycarbonate, which is one problem because it'll just melt the plate and burn it. But it is flimsy. It I built our red tofu giveaway was a polycarbonate plate, and I'm saying it's basically just holding the switches in place at that point.
Yeah, uh, I messed around. I actually have it here. When I was reviewing the bumper, I purchased both an aluminum and a polycarbonate plate for it. And this was the polycarbonate build with Zelio V2 78 grams and a Zeal 60 with the polycarbonate plate. And um, yeah, it basically just feels like you're not typing on. It's like not even there. It's literally just. It feels like it's just holding it in. Um, the plate. I mean, I get the appeal to it because of, if you're someone who wants to get the kind of plateless feel, but you want to have a plate for that support to make sure that things are lined up. You don't want to spend all night trying to get your shift key to not run into your enter key. Um, it's definitely, it helps out with stuff like that. But yeah, it is the flexiest of boys. There's even
Yeah.
there's some, I can't remember. I think it was in the uh the group buy for the what was that KBD fans board? The Polaris, where they literally showed a picture of him with the polycarbonate plate, and has it in half basically. Like he has folded it on itself, and it's completely fine, and it just flexes right back. So
Although you can break it, I
you
wouldn't
can,
recommend trying it.
yeah, don't. Well, yeah, it also depends on how thick it is. That's the other.
Yeah.
The other factor with a lot of these is the thickness. So
And we'll kind of throw in. I didn't write here this on our list, but acrylic, we don't really see it a lot. Acrylic's very flimsy. Acrylic is also way less durable. There have been people, and so a lot of times you see acrylic diffusers around keyboards, because that's such a thin piece of plastic, it can break in half. If you know who I'm talking about, you know. That's someone in keyboards definitely broke an acrylic diffuser in half, and obviously that's a lot thinner piece of plastic, but same properties.
yeah,
They're almost interchangeable. So
yeah, acrylic's a little bit more rigid, but it chips, and it shatters almost.
yeah.
It cracks. Even if you watch a Clavier stream where he's building something, he's always worried that he's gonna break it when when he's screwing everything together. So, but yeah, and then up next, this is a one that I don't have as much familiarity with in terms of plate material, but I know the properties a little bit, and that's carbon fiber. So it's another flexi boy. If you want to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so carbon fiber, I've never built one, but I've definitely tried. Shout out to Juan and Millie. He had a carbon fiber board build that I got to try a while back. It's very similar. And I think carbon fiber, and I don't know the exact release dates, but carbon fiber was kind of that first push into like, let's stop trying to make it as stiff as possible and let's see if we can make something very flexible. And so carbon fiber was one that came out, but because of the look of carbon fiber, I don't think it was as received. I think carbon fiber, like I personally do not like the look of carbon fiber. I think it looks silly to me. Personal preference, but I just think that's not my favorite look. But if people like that, then sure. But that was kind of the first dive that we saw, and at least at a wide range, where people were like, "Oh, you can make a very soft, very flexible typing." So
Yeah, yeah, and then of course there's like the one on top of it. Like the FC65, the Kepler 65, which was forged carbon. It's a little bit different. Like forged carbon fiber is generated differently than regular carbon fiber, so it's a little bit denser. Carbon fiber is it's a dense material, but it can have flex to it. That's why it's used a lot in automobiles, so it has a little bit of flex, but it still maintains the rigidity. So yeah.
yeah, still cheap.
Well, sometimes.
Sometimes. Well, for the most part, plates that you get in the community, they're going to be relatively inexpensive for like the standard carbon fiber. This is kind of the bottom of the list of like what people have been using. We've got one more that's kind of shot up in popularity, but I don't think it has a lot of staying power for other reasons. But this is kind of the bottom of readily available plates. So and it is on the cheaper side. So recommend trying it if you like flex. But personally, I think polycarb, just because it's see-through and you're not worried. And like polycarb's great for if you have like a PCB that like the Zeal 60, like you showed, that thing's going to glow. That thing is going to be extremely vibrant. So where carbon fiber is not going to. So
Yep. Next, FR4.
FR4. So if you don't know, FR4 is what PCBs are made of, printed circuit boards. So it's just plastic. If you want to know how flexible, I've personally never used an FR4. But if you want to know how flexible it is, grab a PCB. That's literally what it's made of. It's going to be a little more flexible because there's bigger holes in it, obviously. But this is another thing where it's probably you're not really getting this for any benefit other than being like, I want to put holy pandas or kale style switches in a board and not have to worry about switch alignment.
Yeah.
So I've never typed on one. I can't imagine it's super far off of typing on a plateless build. So maybe just a little bit more stiff, but yeah.
Yeah. It's not super popular right now. Never, don't really have any experience of FR4. Would like to though, and hopefully maybe in NorCal we'll try out some FR4.
Yeah.
I know there's some FR4 Sirius plates floating around. So I'm excited to see the differences between that versus the Palm FR4 and the carbon fiber. So,
And speaking of Palm, so Palm is gonna be the next one. There it is, Flexi. So it's not as flexible as polycarb, but still got. I mean, it's gonna be more flexible than any metal that you get. um, it's a very rigid, so it's not going to be. I mean, I'm sure you could break it in half. You can break the aluminum ones in half if you try it hard enough, but but it's going to be a little bit more durable and stand the test of time. So one thing I did learn is from Switch Couture is it's actually pretty cheap to get sheets of palm, but it has a high fail rate because they warp easily. So he was like, oh, you can actually get like 12 plates off of like a $50 sheet, but the fail rate's so high that you might only get like 4 or 5. I think he said 4. So it's like, okay, well then that's why it suddenly becomes a little bit more expensive. I know people are not working with Palm as much due to this. It can be a little bit tough, and I know Palm. We're kind of waiting to see if Palm is a material that's here to stay. So I don't have any experience with Palm plates. I know Cyrus is going to definitely have a lot of experience with plates.
yeah, I mean, haven't built it yet, but just by feeling it, it definitely is. It's got a lot of flex to it. You know, it doesn't feel like just by doing this it's going to snap. But really, right now, the only person I know of that's really machining lots of Palm is Project Keyboard. So 159 over there is doing lots with it. The Sirius is an all Palm board, so it's much like polycarbonate, where in a thin bit of it, it's flexy, and then when it's as big as this, it's super rigid. Um, it's
Does it smell at all?
you know what? It doesn't. People were saying when they got their samples, like the prototypes, that it smelled really bad. This doesn't smell at all. I don't know if he like aerated them for a little while.
So maybe he aerated it some.
But it doesn't smell like overly terrible. Not anywhere near what some of the desk mats you get smell like. When you first unroll the desk mats, they smell like death. But it's a really cool material. It's soft. It has an interesting feel to it. Overall, I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a good middle ground between someone who likes aluminum and is interested in getting something a little bit more flexible, but doesn't want something that you can literally bend in half and not shatter, like polycarbonate. I can get that it's hard to machine, but it's one of those things. Once we get someone that can really do it and can do it at a high volume, because it is so cheap to purchase. The other thing is it's very cheap to purchase, but they have super high purchase amounts. That's one thing I've figured out when talking to 159 and other people at Project Keyboard, because I know that they were looking at getting some other, and that's for polycarbonate as well. It's very high purchase amounts, so that's why you don't see a lot of like smoked polycarbonate or like the purple stuff. If you're getting it, it's because the manufacturer already has it for something, or it's just really expensive because you have to buy so much of it. And that's what's wrong with a lot of these plastics, is that you can't buy small amounts, especially when you're talking about like boards. It's like, yeah, you could buy one sheet and get 12 plates, but one sheet's not going to do you a whole lot when you're trying to build boards off of it because the thickness isn't there.
Yeah.
Um, but it's super inexpensive. I'm interested to see. I'm really excited to try it out. Um, I hope it sticks. I think it'll be a cool option to have a inexpensive alternative to like aluminum or brass that's easier and more readily available than aluminum. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm excited to see. I like what Project Keyboard is doing. I hope that they keep on doing it.
Yeah. And be on the lookout. I'm sure Osiris will be releasing a nice professional review of the Sirius with details about the plate. I still need to review the Fiel, but I also have to give up holding onto the Fiel for a few days to give it to him for B-roll shots. So it's gonna be tough. Anyway, last up, we got some plates that I guess one's been in a group buy now. Very uncommon. We'll go through both of them kind of at the same time. But Copper's the first one. We saw it with the Iron 65 Founders Edition, which we've seen other, we've seen companies. I forget what they're called. Laser
Laser
plates or something.
boost.
Laser boost, yeah, where they've done copper. So it's very similar from what I've heard. I've never typed on it, but from what I've seen, very similar to brass. A little more expensive, looks different. So if you're looking for something where you're like, oh, I just want something a little different, like that's one of those very like it's not needed but cool to have.
Yeah, I think the reason why we don't see brass or don't see copper, excuse me, is because we have brass,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like copper is a main component in brass. Brass is a mixture of copper and zinc to make brass. So pros to brass because it uses zinc, it's cheaper, right?
Yep.
It's a pretty considerable amount cheaper when you in the grand scheme of things when you're talking about huge purchase amounts. Um, and copper is actually a little bit denser, a little bit heavier of a material, so it's harder to manufacture. Um, but it's just like brass. A lot of these manufacturers are used to manufacturing it. It's not like some of these other ones where they're like, "What the hell is this material?"
Mm-hmm.
But it's not gonna have a whole lot of like it's not gonna have a super high failure rate. I think we might see more people do it as the want for something different, want for something new is coming up and people are more willing to spend a little bit more. They might say, "Hey, copper, a little bit of a premium." The other thing about
Mm-hmm.
copper is that it does not it ages. Some people would think that it ages gracefully, but when you're talking about a plate, um, that like if you had a raw copper plate, it might not age in the way that you would like. The green not doesn't look that great
Mm-hmm.
when it gets tarnished.
Yeah. So yeah, it's there. It's just that's literally one of those things where if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. If you want it, go for it. There are ways for you to get it.
Yeah.
Um, last up, titanium. That's something that we saw a while ago, probably earlier this year. We saw some titanium plates starting to float around. Very similar to steel. Very stiff plate. Titanium's just a lot lighter. Also expensive. So,
Yeah.
um, not you can do some cool stuff by shocking it by like charging it with electricity and changing it different colors based on what voltage you set it at. So that's something that's neat and unique to it. But I feel like we kind of saw it start, and then once the trend of let's make the flexible PCB or plates start happening is when that kind of died like almost immediately. People were just like, no, I want flexible. I mean, the plate that I'm using right now, the Wilba WT60 D or B, one of those two.
D.
Literally, yeah, D has big relief cuts, so it can be flexible. So one of those things that's not needed if you're looking for something super light. Which, let's be honest, in this community, heavy means premium. you know, that's kind of going in the opposite direction of what a lot of things in this community is kind of steering towards, which is heavy and flexible, which are never really hand in hand. So, um, but yeah,
Yeah, titanium, it's interesting. I feel like we didn't see a lot of it because that group buy for those titanium plates didn't necessarily go very well.
yeah,
um, uh, People purchased them. They have not shown up for quite a few people. But yeah, titanium is a cool material. It's just expensive.
yep,
It's expensive to manufacture. You gotta have someone who knows what they're doing because it's such an expensive raw material that any kind of issues that you have are going to be like the failure rate needs to be so much lower because of the raw material costs. And that's the
yeah,
difference with like something versus like palm. Like you can get a 30-40% failure rate out of it and be okay with it because the raw material is so cheap. Whereas something like copper, brass, or like titanium, your failure rate can't be that low because of it's so much more expensive. So,
yeah.
but I haven't really typed on a titanium plate unless I didn't realize it and typed
Yep.
on one.
If I have, I don't remember.
Yeah.
So, um, so I'll just do my kind of in very short. I like brass because it's kind of jack of all trades. It is a little bit more pricey, but it looks good, feels good. Um, Honestly, the only reason I don't like steel more than brass is because steel is a little pingy, and with my love of tactiles, that tactile switch, you're it's snapping down, so it's going to be pinging more. So maybe on a linear it wouldn't be as bad. Um, I don't like thick brass though, because then that defeats the purpose. It just gets too much. So my least favorite is probably just straight up aluminum because it's like um I don't mind polycarbonate plate. Like I don't mind it. It's soft and it's like, oh, this is what you're going for. Aluminum to me is kind of that like awkward in between where it's like, why is this flexible but still metal? Like, just not a fan.
I think it also has a little bit to do with the fact that like aluminum is like the base, right? Like that's
Yeah.
like the base model and then everything else is an option, you know?
Yep.
Um so it's one of those things for me, I would agree, like aluminum just kind of sits in the middle. It rides the wave. It doesn't
Hmm.
it does a little bit of everything. It sounds okay. It feels okay. It looks okay.
I
Yeah.
like aluminum integrated
Aluminum
because it's
integrated is
different.
nice, but
I
that's
have my
completely
tofu
different.
is great. Yeah.
That's like its own thing. Like
Yeah.
that's still aluminum, but it takes it more into the feel of brass. It still can't
Yeah.
get the sound of brass. Um, I feel like to me, I like brass because I like the way it sounds. It sounds the
Hmm.
most balanced to me. Um, that's what you get a lot of differences when you start playing with things like foam, sorbethane, stuff like that. That's when you start getting a lot of difference. Um, you hear the most difference with different mounting styles. I feel like with um, brass, but I'm excited to try out Palm. I've
Yeah.
people have been ranting and raving on it. The only reason really I bought the Sirius was because Quakeums from Top Clack would not shut up about how amazing it was. Because I play Overwatch a lot with him, and yeah, he's just like, dude, this might be the board of the year for me. And
Hmm.
so when I heard that, I was like, all right, I gotta get it. So, um, but yeah, really excited to try this out. I'm excited to try a little bit more of the flexible plates, things that aren't necessarily built more for rigidity, things that sound different. Maybe let the natural sound of the Switch itself rather than the Switch plus the plate plus the mounting style come through. And that's the other thing is we didn't talk as much about sound. A lot of the flexible stuff, I would say it lets the natural sound of the Switch through a little bit more than being colored by the metal.
Hmm. So anyway, sorry for the yawn. Yeah. So that's plates. Like we said earlier, try out, go to meetup, try it out. If you're looking to burn some money, buy a couple different plates too. You know, hot swap board, why not try to you might like a linear on something a lot more stiff and like a tactile and something a lot more soft and flexi boy esque. So but yeah, other than that, tomorrow or tonight, sorry, Osiris, check them out.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited to try it here in a week and a half. But yeah, check that out. We've got Mr. Keebs, all the way from Brazil. That's probably not as far as Yang Lad. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's in distance, it's far. Time zone,
Time
nowhere
zone
near.
definitely not.
Nowhere
No,
near.
but Mr. Keebs will be joining us. We're going to talk about. He has built so many boards, so we're
Yeah.
just going to grill him about every freaking board possible.
The dude is like, he hasn't really been in the hobby an insanely long time, I don't think. I remember Anthony talking about him a while ago. He's like, yeah, he's only been in for like, it's been a couple years at this point, but we'll have to talk to him about that as well. But he has like something like 150 boards already, and he's got a drawer and a cabinet full of boards that just still need to be built. So yeah, he's a cool dude. Check us out, twitch.tv/Mechs on deck. We'll be there tonight at 8 p.m. and tomorrow night with Mr. Keebs at 8 p.m. Central Time. It's going to be a good time.
Yep. And then this Friday, we'll be announcing all of the details. We should have the schedule out by then. I have to double check with some people. Should have the schedule out, but if not, we'll at least have the giveaways. I'll be releasing that in our Discord. You can find that link down below. Other links you can find, switchmod.net/Mechs on deck. Get yourself some lube, springs, all that. He's got GMK Alter coming up. Get you 4% off that. Just not the group buy, but the lubes and springs and all the other stuff. Zap cables, make some of the best cables. Join this Discord. See when his cables are going to go on. If not, buy yourself a DIY cable and build it with our video. And mechsondeck.dixiemech.com. Grab yourself GMK Dracula. It's about to leave. So be a part of one of the most popular keycap set group buys ever.
Yeah, and don't think because it's the most popular that you'll be able to get it for group buy price afterwards, because we all know that's not the case. Chances are good there's going to be just as many people next year coming in wanting that same set. So if you got the means to get it and you're interested in it, pick it up. Use our link, helps us out. Yeah, and then Chewy was talking about 24-hour stream, I believe.
Yep. Sorry, 24. That's why I totally did.
No worries. I was like, talking about 24-hour. I know, but they don't know. But yeah, 24-hour stream, November 23rd, noon-ish is when
giveaway
we're gonna go live.
galore.
Giveaways, games, interviews, other stuff, builds. We're gonna have a good time. We're putting in a lot of work, but it's gonna be a good time. So come check it out. Other than that, if you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel. Have a good night or day, whatever it is.
Buy a Switch tester.